Next, for the sake of getting a better picture of what we're doing, what we're going to do is we're going to sum all the countries and all the age groups for each and every year. So we want to create a sort of, and we want to create an annual global, figure out annual global global trends. So annual trends, let's say annual trend, annual trend. We create a new object called annual trend. We'll use the malaria national data again, and then we'll group and summarize it as you know, as we did with everything. You know, group by or group by. Since we're trying to summarize it over the whole period of time, we'll group by year. Group by year, then summarize some. That's again total deaths equals some deaths, comma, equals true, comma, mean deaths equals mean deaths, and then we'll drop the groups thing again. So annual trends from 1990 to 2016, there were, you know, the totals were like almost 1.5 million in 1990 and in 1.4 million in 2016. Yeah, so you know, that's just group by year. But we want to kind of also compare if the thing is if the deaths have been increasing or decreasing from the highest from 1990 to 2016. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the annual trend. We're going to take the annual trend function, annual trend object, and then say filter it. Filter it by year, and then say in how does this work again? C 20, say 19, is it 1990 or 1991? Oh, 1990. Okay, so 1990, comma 1991. Is that it? Yeah, something like that. Okay, so sorry, I didn't mean 1991. I meant 2016. So essentially we're just comparing. We just wanted to bring out. We just filtered for these two variables. It's not about showing the trend. We're just comparing the two. We're not actually showing okay. So we're not actually comparing the two. We're not actually like showing a graph, whatever. We just want to compare the two and see how they've been going. A graphical representation in this case would be better, of course, but this is not what we're dealing with at the moment. So it's just for the sake of that. But in terms of, in general, these are the trends regardless of age group. But just for comparison's sake, um, the filter the filter function would help us just to compare the two. So we pronounce this as in, just say in, or percentage in percentage, but in just sounds better. Anywho, next is we're now gonna, is that it for that? I think we haven't done deaths by age group yet, right? Yeah, deaths by year and age group. So that's the next objective. So deaths by year and age group. Essentially, we now want to add a second variable from, like, deaths by year is like insufficient. So we'll now combine deaths by year and age group, and then we'll try to make that make more sense. Let me show I think I didn't explain it that well, but let me show you what I mean. So we'll say these are annual trends by year. So let's say trends by age. Trend by age is, you take the malaria national data and then you group by age group, summarize total deaths. You know what? I think for once I just might copy, because I'm not interested in typing all this out right now. Okay, so total deaths is this, comma. We don't want the mean deaths, by the way. So if you want, you can, I guess you can create the mean deaths, but we're not really looking for the mean deaths. So this is now like trend by age. So we know that. So we've created a new summary, a new data set, a new data frame, a new table, whatever you want to call it. And we've just summarized all the data, but we've just summarized it. By age. We should add year here. I think because let's add year as well. Because we had said that if we take age alone, it's insufficient. It's just like this one, deaths by age. So we want to add. So we want to add the two. So we want to take the annual. So we want to take deaths by age, deaths by year, and then deaths by age, and then we want to kind of bring them both together. So we'll say group by both of these, and then create a massive summary, and trend by age now becomes this. So take age groups, so take age groups, years, and total deaths. So for example, in 1990, we know that between the 15 to 49 there were this many deaths. In 1998, between 49, this many deaths. So they've grouped them by age, all the years up to whatever the hell they used, up to, and then just summarized, and I've just summarized everything. So yeah, pretty much, right? So we've grouped them by age now. So say so say trend by age. Okay, so yeah, this is our new data set. We've combined both the year and the age group data set. So now what we want to do is we want to create new columns. If we want to graphically represent this better, it'll help it creating new columns for these various ages will help us to to just present the data better if we want a graphical representation. So essentially we say this data is long, so what we want to do is to make it wide. So we use the pivot wide function. So the pivot wider function so the pivot wider function will help us with with our data to now move the data and compare the age groups side by side instead of we'll now compare the age groups side by side instead of having them all in one long column and then make it look weird. So we'll say trend wide is take malaria, say trend by age. We'll take the trend by age function and then say pivot wider. Here's how it works. I always forget pivot wider is like, anyway, it's a really common function though. You just have to memorize how you use it. Names from age group to and then values from total deaths. Yeah, I think it's like this. So if you're confused, we can go here. So pivot wider. So pivot wider, I like how R shows you everything. So where's the so here's an example. So US rent income, then pivot wider, names from variable, names separated by this, values from C to so this is the general picture of what it looks like. So for us, we're moving things from like the age group. So we're moving things from like the age group function. So we want instead of this to we want these to now be columns. So 15 to 49 should now have total deaths, should now have like their deaths in their own columns. And like in columns. Okay, let me just show you what it does. And then pivot wider, did we run it yet? No, we haven't run it yet. So trend wide does this. In 1990, there were 96,000 deaths, and then 13,000 deaths, and then 137,000 deaths, and so on and so forth. So we've now just moved it from just a year and then moved it across, and then we just moved it across. So the data is now wide instead of being long. So it's really helpful in the future if you want to create graphs and do stuff like that. So you're definitely gonna need the pivot wider function. So there's a book I linked probably somewhere, so make sure in the resources, so make sure you check it out. There's good use of, give really good examples of when to use the pivot wider function. But for now, yeah, so